Hello, I'm Darren. Today I'm going to talk about a common thing that's said to me about equity release. Oh, it's far better to downsize. Many people feel that way. And is it true? Well, for some it will be. If you're looking to move to be closer to your family or to be by the sea or something, then obviously quite clearly moving is your prime reason for doing it. So that's a perfect reason. But if you're going to do it purely because you believe it's financially better, then perhaps you should reconsider. There are various factors involved: house prices rising, cost of equity release compared to anything else, etc., etc. Now I'm going to have a look at that for you. So I'm going to share some graphs with you now. The first of these graphs, which you can see now here on the left, the red line is if you stay in your current property, assuming house prices rise at 3% a year, what the value of the house will rise to. In this case, I'm using a £400,000 house to start with, and the house price will rise over 25 years to something like 800,000. So, obvious, think about downsizing. You've got a £400,000 house, you want to raise £100,000 in your bank at the end of the process. So take into account the cost of selling your house and the cost of buying another one, including stamp duty. You would end up buying a house probably for about £280,000 to leave yourself with £100,000 after costs. So the blue line there is a £280,000 house, again growing at 3% a year over 25 years. So you put the £100,000 bank. I'm going to assume you've spent the £100,000 instantly on something. So you don't have to get complicated calculations about what to do where that comes into the equation, because it's the same for both sides. So the yellow line is the cost of 100,000 equity release mortgage. So that's keeping your existing property, taking equity release mortgage. And you see the mortgage obviously does climb. And I've assumed an interest rate of 4%, which is about the average at the moment, but there are many mortgages that are lower than that. So in a lifetime mortgage of 4%, without you making any payments whatsoever, which again you can do. Now the blue line there is a difference between the value of your original property less than equity release balance at the time of your death at any time. So in 25 years time, you see the blue line, which is the downsizing, is actually slightly better than the net value of your estate, the green line. But it's actually 19 years time where that red arrow is, where it breaks even. So until 19 years time, you're better off staying where you are. So that's a surprise. Just give you an idea, that gap there at the end there at 25 years, it will have cost you about £12,500 more to stay in your existing house than it did to downsize. But bear in mind, you've had the benefit of staying in your own home, the one you love, the one you've known and loved. All right, so possibly better to downsize, marginal, not a big difference. As you can see, the gap between the blue and the green line there is pretty much not very much all the way through. So let's look at a different option. House prices rising at 3% a year. Let's assume house prices rise at 4% a year. Does that make a difference? Of course it does. And there, as you can see, the green line is now significantly higher than the blue downsized option. So now we have a gain all the way from day one, where you're better off staying where you are, as your legacy will be better after paying the lifetime mortgage. That's a surprise to most people. You've actually gained quite a lot of money there. And give you an idea, I'm thinking really unrealistically here. I don't think we should be thinking 4% growth rates a year. That's a bit high, and I could be using that to fudge the figures. So let's ignore that. Let's move on to the next option. This is more realistic. I've gone back to house prices rising at only 3%, but this time the lifetime mortgage rate at 3.5%, which is still very competitive. There are still many mortgages below that rate. The lowest rates are down to 2.6, 2.7 at the moment, so there's still a bit of leeway. I've not gone for the cheapest option here. I've gone for a reasonable one, 3.5% rate. There's loads of options out there at 3.5% or under. But again, you can still see that the green line is definitely above the blue line. So you're still definitely better off having stayed in your existing home. I think that would surprise most people, that at current interest rates, you will be better off not downsizing. You'll end up releasing more capital or saving more money, because obviously if you die sooner rather than later, you're even better off. So that, I think that's probably made you think a little bit. The final option I want to look at is actually you don't have to take the lump sum. Now, to sell your house and downsize, obviously you put £100,000. You've got to put it somewhere safe. Savings accounts, very little interest rate at the moment, not worth doing. You don't want to invest it because that's money you want to keep and spend, so you're going to have to put it somewhere safe. So that's not really suitable. But many extra lease mortgages now, you can actually withdraw the capital a bit at a time and not pay any interest until you do. Now, in this case, I'm going to assume you want the same £100,000, but instead of having it all today, because you don't need it today, is £5,000 every single year. And I'll say, and again, I've assumed it's once a year for simplicity. So every 12 months in January, we give you £5,000. You only start paying interest on that £5,000 when you draw it. So in the first year, you're only paying interest on £5,000. Second year, you're paying interest on £10,000, and so on. So what does that look like? Now you can see that's made a big difference. The gap at the beginning is massive. So if you die in those early years, years 1 to 15, you are massively better off than you would have been if you downsized. You've still had your money that you wanted every year. You're still living in your own home, which is lovely. You haven't got to sell your stuff. You haven't got to get rid of your furniture. You haven't got to change the layout. You haven't got used to living somewhere else. But the key there is, even after 25 years, you're still massively better off. And in fact, to give you an idea, that gap there is best part of £60,000 better off. So it's a significant amount. So I think I'm going to leave it there because that's enough numbers for most people's heads to cope with at one go. But as you can see, equity release is a very good option compared to downsizing at current interest rates. That's not always the case. If interest rates suddenly went up to much higher, or if house prices stopped dead, that would change the numbers. But that's for you to discuss with an advisor at the time you are considering it. But don't just dismiss it as, oh, it's better to downsize, because I frequently hear that statement from people who don't understand how it works. So just talk it through, look at the numbers, and then decide once you've been informed about the options. And that's it as far as I'm concerned today. So thank you very much. And I'm going to stop there. And here we go, switching off.